Happy Halloween, I'm Moose Lundstrom.
And I'm Christine Casto.
And we are back at the Club Tap Room for the Bull Hooker Halloween special, right?
Yes.
The second annual. This is our second time we've done this, Christine.
This is going to be a good one.
Christine drug me out of my hole to come out and do a podcast. But we do the podcast at the Club Tap Room because it's you guys do such a great job of decorating, getting everything in the mood for this holiday, man.
Thank you.
You guys are huge Halloween people, though, right?
Yes.
You and Ryan are into it?
Yes. Him more so than me.
Because he's got like a 6 foot gargoyle in his house, right?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
But this podcast is be a little different than usual from Bull Hooker if you're not used to it. What we do for this podcast is we reached out to everybody in Morgan County and said, "Come tell us your Halloween stories."
Yes, and we've had several people submit their stories, and some stop in to have you guys record them, and it's going to be awesome. It's
going to be fun. We had 7 stories for you. Actually, I think 8 or 9 stories. A few of them told 2 stories, but a lot of local people from Morgan County. So before we get started, though, I want to say thank you for supporting the Bull Hooker. Thanks for checking this out. And also, come down to the Club Tap Room. What's the address down here, Christine?
212 Main Street.
212 Main Street in Fort Morgan, Colorado. Unfortunately, this is actual Halloween today.
Yes.
So you can't come down for the Halloween party, but if you want to do a party every year, this is the place you should come. They always have a great Halloween bash.
Yes.
Right? And it's always a good time at the Club Tap Room.
Always a super good time.
And I know that because I don't remember most of the time those here at the Club Tap Room. So that tells you anything about what a great time they've had. So are you ready to hear some stories?
Yes.
All right. This first story is actually a good friend of both of ours, a city councilman here, and more importantly, a retired police officer from Fort Morgan. If you've watched the Travel Channel, they have a special on first responders, haunted stories of first responders.
Yes.
You know, people who came, like cops and EMTs that show up to residences where crazy shit's happening.
Yeah.
And they're trying to diagnose the problem, but yet there's something odd. You know, like people are claiming like shadow people, whatever. They see all this crazy stuff. Well, kind of the same thing. So this is Doug Schossow. Check it out.
Okay. My name's Doug Schossow. Back in 1984, I joined the police department in 83, and these are stories as I remember them. 84, Halloween, been on the police department about a year, and we had some vandalism and stuff like that going on at the cemetery in Fort Morgan, and they'd wanted us to do some extra patrol. So we got a phone call around 1-ish, if I remember right. We worked midnight to 8 and 8 to 4 and 4 to midnight. And when I pulled up, you could see flickering going on in the cemetery. And back in those days, there was just maybe 1 or 2 of us working. A lot of times just 1. This particular night we had 2. And so my partner come in from the west side. I come in from the east side. I remember this very vividly, and we got out and started walking towards the flicker, and as I got to the first driveway on the east side of the cemetery, I could hear voices, like people talking. I couldn't tell what they were talking about, but I could hear talking. And without talking on the radio, and we both made our way to the flicker. And got a little closer, and you could see people, dark shadows, I guess, if you would, because it was dark, and still the voices. And as we got a little closer, the darkness of the shadows disappeared. And I thought that was odd. Where did they go? And it's got a little closer. The voices had stopped about the time that the shadows disappeared, and they're on the tombstone. And if I remember right, it was early 1800s, between 1850 and 1900s. And there was 4 candles sitting there, and they were all flickering, but nobody around. And my partner showed up, and he goes, "Did you hear that?" I said, "I did." He said, "Did you see what I would?" Yeah, I said, "I did." And so we gathered up the candles, and they were in little votive glasses, and we took them. And the next night, we had the same problem. 2 nights in a row, voices, shadows, Fort Morgan Cemetery. Never did see them, never did hear them, or heard them, but we never did see them, and they were never there when we got there. The cemetery guys at the time would talk about that type of stuff happening at the cemetery. So, real story, guys, real story. The next story, about the same time, I think it was like a year, maybe 2 years later, so time frame 87-ish, the old Fort Morgan hospital. I think it's down like a 1,000 block of State, right there at the Baptist church. That big long building there was the Fort Morgan hospital at one time. And you try and absorb as much as you can from history, and I was working with some guys who'd been with the department, longtime residents of Fort Morgan, and they would tell you stories. You have no idea if they're true or not, but they're really cool stories. So, walking doors and checking doors was our primary goal on nights, and stopped in at the Baptist church, rattled the doors, and I decided to walk the old hospital. And on the back side, on the east side of it, there's some 2 doors there, and I grabbed them, the door opened up. So I called, and one of my guys came over, and we started walking down and walked down to the basement. And he had made comment that he had heard that the basement was just a big cement room. This is where the morgue was set up. And you're going, "Oh, shut the front door, you just don't start that now. We're in here." You're in this big old building with flashlights, and we're downstairs, and, just kind of looking around. This is kind of cool. And our whole goal that night was to check the building, make sure nobody was in there, and then lock the door and move on if we could. If not, we called the owners, and they'd come down and lock it for us. But as we're downstairs, we hear wham! Like a door slam. And we both kind of looked at each other, and of course, what the... And it's nice and quiet. You could hear footsteps. And them are old oak floors, and, you get somebody with an old, like, not tennis shoes, with a hard sole shoes, you hear them walking. And so we decided that we probably need to go up and find out. So we made it to the first floor, and still going on. You could hear it upstairs. The second floor, and nobody around. Nobody around. And these are empty rooms. Some of them, I'm sure at one time were probably patient rooms, and so we're standing there, and you're just kind of like, you thinking what I'm thinking? Yeah, there's some spooks here, and next thing you knew, you hear the door slam. This time it's a floor below you. And there ain't no windows open. There's no doors open. And you're just going, So we decided to go downstairs and follow the footprints, the footsteps, and totally gone. Totally gone. And it's just one of them things that you just go, you know what? It's just time to go, And so every time I go into that, every time I drive by, I always remember that night. Maybe I doubt it. I do believe in supernatural. I do. I just seen too many weird things, and it just kind of brings on a meaning for Halloween, and so that's my story.
Thank you, Doug. All right, that was Doug Schossow. What did you think about that one, Christine?
Well, that leaves you with a lot of questions. Like,
Right.
holy crap.
Right.
at the cemetery kind of makes you wonder, was like, I know he's seen their headstone. He saw their headstone, but like, was that date significant to anything?
Oh, yeah.
Was it a birthday or was it the death anniversary? I mean, like, it just leaves you with a lot of why that day.
Right.
Or at least that's what I kind of thought about it, was why.
Or that person in the grave, did they have some kind of substantial, or were they important to like an occult or something to that effect?
Yeah.
You know, or were they something like dark and evil? Who knows? That's, it'd be awesome. But that's got to be, man, you got to respect cops for that, to have to go deal with that. Yeah. Would you do that?
No, I would not.
Not on your ass would I do that.
No, I would not. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to wait in the car.
Yeah, I'd have my gun drawn.
Let me know. Fire 2 shots that were clear.
Nope. I would have my gun out, Christine, and I tell you what, if you're a ghost, you're safe. But if you have a body and you bleed, I am going to shoot your ass. So, pretty scary stuff. And then in the basement of these, it was the old hospital.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know there was an old hospital.
Yeah, it's right at the very, like you said, the 100 block of State Street, right across from the backside of the hotel.
Okay.
It's right there, that big, huge building on the corner.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, that's the old hospital.
And I mean, hospitals have got to be stupid. You see, once again, Travel Channel, send me some money for hooking you up with all these shout-outs. Come on, Travel Channel, help a brother out. But you see, like, the haunted hospital episodes, and those are the crazy ones, because, I mean, so many spirits in that. How many people have died in the hospital?
Lots.
And a lot of them have been tragic deaths,
Yeah.
They've shown up and just died from car wounds or car crashes or guns, whatever,
Yeah.
So pretty crazy shit, man, for sure. So,
yeah, and they just probably, I would say, not ready to go yet. So maybe, I don't know.
Or they don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Scary stuff. But, and I got the distinct feeling that Doug Schossow has a lot more stories. You know what I mean?
Oh, I think so. I think there's probably plenty he can't tell as well.
Right. He there was quite a few of the people that stepped up or into this really kind of stuff. Yeah. And as we get a few more stories in, I'll point some of the people out that really were really loving this stuff. So anyway, that was Doug Schossow. Thank you, Douglas.
Thanks, Doug.
It was good to see you, buddy. Our next story comes from someone who was at the Emporium. It's where I met her. Now, crazy story about the Emporium. There's been 3 or 4 people to notice there's an entity in the basement. A little boy running around. This next one, Jennette Bishop, was the first person she works there. Uh-huh. And when I first got there, we first set up our podcast studio, I was putting everything up and kind of building it downstairs. And she'd walk down there, and at first she didn't feel anything. Right. But she says she's very sensitive to this stuff, as this story's going to tell you. And she said that it'll find me. It'll find me if something's down here. And then it's like 2 weeks later, she goes, "There's something down here. There's a little boy down here."
Oh, yikes.
But he's malevolent. I think it's the good one, right? I always get them mixed up. Benevolence the bad, malevolence the good, right? Malevolence. Welcome to the Bullhooker podcast, where we're experts on this shit, right?
Right. So, we got this all put together. But we know what we're doing.
Yeah, we know what's going on. But he's very peaceful. But she said there's also something down there that's not peaceful. So, but she's the only one to pick up on that so far. A few of the other people that came down there have also been like, "There's something here," but I'll get into that a little later. But right now, here's Jennette Bishop with her story.
My name is Jennette Bishop, and this is actually the story that started it all for me. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I only had a 3-month-old daughter at the time. I lived in Englewood. We had just moved into a brand new house. It was probably midwinter, tons of snow on the ground. You couldn't really see the yard at all. My husband at the time was working, so it was just me and my daughter. She was in her bedroom and she was sleeping. I had a baby monitor set up, and I was sitting there watching TV, and on the baby monitor I heard just static come through. So I switched the channel, and I was like, okay, maybe it's just the channel we're on. Switched the channel, and at this time I wasn't a believer at all of anything. Very much a skeptic even. And I switched the channel, and then all of a sudden I hear laughter. And so I was like, okay, this was a childlike laughter, not from a 3-month-old. I run inside the bedroom, and there's a door on the outside of the bedroom, so I was a little worried that somebody maybe snuck into the bedroom. Run in there, nobody's in there. I lock the door, go back out, change the channel again. 5 minutes goes by, I hear that laughter again. And I'm like, what is going on? So I run back in there, nothing there. I freaked out. I called my husband at the time. He worked just down the street, about 5 minutes away. And I told him what had happened. And he was like, just unplug it. You're probably picking up somebody else's baby monitor. I said, okay. So I unplug it from the thing. I took the batteries out, everything. Had it sitting on the side. All of a sudden, static. There's no reason why this baby monitor should have done anything. It had no battery. It was not on a charger. It was there's no reason for it to have any kind of static, and it turns on static. I freaked out, checked the thing out the window. Scared the heck out of me. Called Chris back at my husband at the time and told him what had happened. He was like, calm down. It's probably fine. Just get Nadia, my daughter, up and sit down and watch some TV with her. Okay. So I get her up, I pull her in with me, we're watching TV. I've got I think I had a cooking show on or something I was watching, and all of a sudden the channel starts changing. And I'm like, okay, somebody is messing with me. So I switch the channel back, and it goes to another channel, to the same channel, and then it switches back to that same channel. And I'm like, what is going on? So I turn it off. TV turns back on. I'm shaking at this point. I put my daughter in her pack-and play. I called Chris. I was like, you need to come over. There's seriously a problem. And he was like, it's probably fine. Just, I don't have time. Call up your uncle. My uncle is a medium, so he knows quite a bit about this. And he was the only person I knew to turn to. So I was like, all right, call him up. I tell him, I need your help. He goes, I know. I was like, what do you mean you know? He goes, you have ghost issues in your house. And I was like, how do you know that? He was like, I know. I'm on my way. I was like, okay. He lives an hour away. He was already on his way to me when I had called him. He showed up. By this time, it was late at night. And I had a friend that was supposed to come over and hang out with me that night. And I had told him about it. He goes, that's fine, but I'm going to have you guys all leave the house. I'm going to cleanse you. I'm going to cleanse, your husband. The kids, I asked my mom to come pick them up because I didn't want them to be present for it. So I had her come get Nadia. And he started his whole process. He started walking through the house, cleansing it. He did a prayer, did a bunch of other stuff. And at this time, I didn't know anything about anything. So I was just like, you guys are crazy. I'm just going to stay in my little bubble where I feel safe, essentially. And so I kind of stayed in the living room, let them do their thing. And he had walked around the house, and it sounded like he was talking to somebody. It was kind of crazy. And then all of a sudden he was like, or there was a knock on the door. And I was like, okay, this must be my friend. I go answer the door. There's nobody there. I'm like, what the heck? What the heck? So I go back in, and I'm like, okay, there's a knock on the door, but nobody's there. I'm expecting my friend. He was like, just make sure you stop him at the door when he gets here. Another knock on the door. I go leave the bedroom after telling him this to go answer the door again. It was only a matter of like 30 seconds between knocks. I go leave again, and as I'm leaving through my kitchen, I hear this loud like crashing sound right behind me. I turned around and didn't see anything, didn't notice anything. I go to the door, open the door, nobody's there. So I called my friend, and I was like, are you coming? Are you messing with me? Like, where are you at? And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to message you. I'm not coming. My mom had something come up. I'm still in Elizabeth, which was an hour away from where I was in Englewood. And I was like, so you weren't here? And he was like, no, I wasn't there. I was like, okay, something weird is happening. I went rushing back into the house to try and tell my uncle about it. And I looked, and I ran into this drawer that had been pulled out. And it had all my knives in it. So something had pulled the drawer out behind me. And that's what that rattling was. And I didn't put two and two together until after everything was said and done. Which we'll get there. But so I go back in there. I tell him about it. He was like, okay, I want you to go through, open up all the doors, all the windows. We're going to clear out this space. I've had to chase something off, and I'll let you know about it in a minute. And I was like, okay. Sure. So I go and I open all the windows, all the doors, and all this. He had done sage, so all the smoke starts dissipating. It's still dead of winter. You can't really see anything. It's cold. And he comes out and he goes, there was a gentleman and there was a little boy. And I was like, okay. And he goes, the gentleman was keeping the little boy here, and he wasn't allowing him to do the things he needed to do. And he wasn't a very good individual. I sent him off. But the little boy is asking if he can stay. I said, what's the story behind the little boy? And he said he used to stay in the bedroom where your daughter is. And he was climbing up the bookshelves of the house, and the bookshelf fell down on him. It was like a 6 put together bookshelf that was supposed to be stapled into the wall. Well, it came loose, in the wall. It came loose, came down on the kid, and killed him. He had died in that room, and so he was asking it permission to stay. And I said, sure. And he goes, there's also a little red ball. When you find the little red ball, don't touch it. I was like, okay, sure, he can stay. As long as he doesn't bother me, my kids, my family, doesn't scare anyone, he can stay. And so that, after he had left, I went through the kitchen and I noticed there was a knife that probably came from the knife drawer that was open, and it was sticking in my screen window, like something had chucked it. And so it was just like sticking straight out. My screen window had sliced right through it and was just stuck there. And then, so that was kind of scary. It kind of felt like something was trying to attack me as it was headed on its way out. And then that summer, when the snow melted, in the corner of the yard, we found the little red ball. It was in the yard. And that whole summer, that was the only summer I stayed there. I moved after that. But that whole summer, that ball would move all over the yard. It would go from one side of the yard to the other side of the yard. And my Naughty was too young to play in the yard. Nobody touched it. It was definitely the little boy. And they did demolish that building, so I have no idea what happened to that boy. But that was the start of what all happened with me. And after that, I was a believer. I was like, I've seen way too much to not know there's more out there. Yeah.
Thank you, Jennette.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, that was Jennette Bishop. That was a cool story. When she told that story, I'm sitting here, and it's hard for me because in the podcast I interject a lot more than I should. People get irritated with me because I interrupt them. But I sat there just nodding, listening to her tell that story, and you and I had talked briefly before we started filming about this.
Yes.
And you don't give that little boy permission to stay. Huh?
No, you got to go.
Yeah.
Sorry, get your toys, load them up, head out.
Right.
No, I'm not going to say you can stay.
Right, yeah, you're not welcome here.
No.
Such a crazy story, though, and it was the red ball at the end,
That was creepy.
And Jennette has got a wealth of stories. She was the big one that said, I don't know, I might have too many stories. You know what I mean? I would imagine if this becomes an annual thing, which I'd like it to be.
That would be super awesome to be able to do this every year.
I bet she comes back next year and tells more stories. So.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, but that was awesome. That's Jennette Bishop. She is a wonderful person. She's so nice. She's such a good person.
Super sweet.
She is a sweetheart.
Yeah, you can stay. No, you cannot stay.
Yeah.
What?
I don't give a shit if your ass is in astral form. You paying rent, okay?
No, you cannot stay. Oh, you can stay. No. Yeah. Get out.
And it's kind of crazy when you hear these stories about how they try to attack you, like that knife in the window. I mean, that's just...
Gotta go.
Yeah.
Or I'm going. Somebody's leaving.
Right. And her uncle being a medium helps. It absolutely helps. So, man,
that was crazy.
It was crazy. So, anyway, that was Jennette Bishop. Jennette, thank you for your entry, and that was fun. That was a lot of fun. So, the next guy we have coming up is a guy I grew up with. Man, I've known this guy. He's been a friend of mine for years and years. But he actually came and approached you about this.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, when I saw the name, I was like, I'm surprised he didn't come to me. But which is fine, because in our video we said come to the tap room and sign up. But this is John Hastings, and he has a short one and then a longer story. But we'll check this out right now. So here we go.
Yeah, I'm John Hastings, and we're supposed to be doing a spooktacular or whatever story about spooks. Well, I've got a couple of them. The first story I remember when I was a kid, we lived in this house in 406 Charles in Hill Rose, Colorado. Well, my brother and I, we'd come home after school and we'd watch our little brother when mom and dad are working. And we're sitting there watching TV. And just kind of chilling out. We got our chores done, did the dishes and, stuff that we did back then. I mean, we had to clean the house and do stuff, make Mom happy because Mom was working. Well, we're watching TV. It's about 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. I mean, it's about this time of year, so it's getting a little dark, and hear the big old shake of the silverware drawer, like. Jim and I look at each other and what the fuck is that? And we're just kind of sitting there looking at each other. We're like maybe 12, 13 years old. Well, walk out in the kitchen. I mean, the drawers are fine. They're pushed in, all this other stuff. And we're freaked out. I mean, we're just like little kids and shit in our pants, whatever. And about 5 years later, we figure out, okay, well, where we lived, it was the old church parsonage there, and we're talking with some neighbors. One that used to watch my little brother, O.C. Potter. She said, well, the little lady that was in there, she died in your mom and dad's bedroom. Used to be the old study. Well, I don't know if she was there, pretty much thinking she was, because you'd hear stuff every now and then, but that was the first time I ever experienced that. I was about 12, 13 years old, and just the drawer pulling out, and you could hear it. And these were old drawers with silverware trays in them, so you knew pretty much if you jerked the drawer open, you'd hear the stuff rattle. Make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. I tell you what, when you're 13 years old and that happens, and because you know what's going on. And that's the first one. Anyway, the second one, that was the culmination. I know there's people out there that are kind of drifting. I was living in, it's probably been about 18 years ago, living in Castle Rock, riding horses and shoeing horses down there with Bill Murphy. And anyway, there's this bar up the road in between Medved Chevrolet and our place called Duke Steakhouse. Well, it was an old bowling alley, and they converted one side into the bar and then the other side of the restaurant. It was famed after the Duke, John Wayne, So we were in there about every night eating dinner, single, whatever, just go in there and eat a steak or chicken fried steak, whatever. But we'd stay in there and get libated about 4, 5, 6 nights a week. Maybe take a day off here and there. But on the south side of the restaurant, there was a one-holer bathroom. So you'd be drinking beer and somebody was in there, so you'd have to go to the north side of the restaurant. Well, I go over to the north side of the restaurant this night because I'm waiting. God dang guy, he must have had to take a dump or something, so I had to go to north side. I go to the north side and I'm in the urinal. It's a bigger bathroom, not a one-holer. It's 3 or 4 stalls, whatever. I'm starting to take a leak, whatever, and I feel this hand come up over my neck, grab my shoulder. And I mean, just like somebody grabs a hold of my collarbone. And I'm taking a leak and I turn around, there's nobody there. I mean, nobody there. And I'm not, I dropped, you talk about stop the flow, grab shit, zip up your zipper and get the fuck out of there. That's what I did. And I ran out of the bathroom. I come over there and I must have been 3 shades of white. Because Brenda, the owner, and her daughter look at me and they said, you met him. Like, met what? Met the guy. And I can't remember, they said his name and I can't remember his name, but anyway, it was apparently there's a creek that's just to the east of the restaurant anyway. This guy was having a hell of a time. He took his life down on the bottom of this creek. Well, it was just right to the east of the restaurant. Well, apparently he came back and he's inhabited this place. Had no idea about it. I didn't know nothing, whatever. But that's where he was, and he would come and visit. these, I tell you what, I would not go over there to the north side of that restaurant ever after that. I was there for about 3 years. No. I mean, stop, drop, and get the hell out of there. That's my spook story. But he was a real deal, and they experienced him all the time. He'd go and throw shit off the counter or whatever. There'd be silverware laying there, and he'd throw shit off the counter. And yeah, I got to experience his whole hand on my damn shoulder. But it's about 18 years ago, and yeah, I'm still a believer. They're still out there. Whew. Yeah.
Thank you, John.
You bet.
So that was John Hastings. First two good stories. I think the first one, him and Jim were just drinking. I think they just that I don't believe that silverware story shit at all. So just kidding. I'm playing, John.
I was gonna say I'm just wondering if it was such an old house that it was the metal drawers where you hear them screech when they come out.
Yeah.
Because I can believe that. At that age, oh my God, I bet they screamed like girls.
Oh, I bet at this age I scream like a girl if that happens, you know.
Yeah. I'd be like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. The other one, I believe it because how many restaurants start in old hotels or old buildings, right? They refurbish them into restaurants because it's so expensive to open a restaurant, right?
It is super expensive.
So a lot of these older restaurants, and a lot of those older buildings have a little class to them, a little like, you know, a little.
They have character.
Character.
They have
that's
a lot
great,
of character.
That's a great word to put it.
Yeah.
And so I do believe, you know. So, and I think sometimes you just get used to it.
Yeah.
You know,
they just go with it.
Right. Like last year we talked about the Elks Lodge. You used to manage the Elks Lodge.
Yeah.
And you just kind of learned to live with it, right? With the weird
I learned
stuff.
to not go in there by myself.
Yeah.
Still a pansy, but I just wouldn't go in there by myself.
Right. And I mean, but you know, right? So
yeah, you definitely know, and it's like he says, the hair on the back of your neck stands up. You can feel it, but yet you see nothing.
Right.
It's like, yeah, no, thank you.
Pass. Hard pass.
Hard pass.
That was a great story,
Yeah,
you know, and it's kind of a crazy thing. If you had a restaurant, would you advertise that, or would you try to hide that?
Well, that's a tough one.
I think it depends on when the majority of your business is there. If you were kind of a lunch place during the day, I think I would advertise it so those who were into it would come at night, you know. But if you were like a nighttime place, like you guys do here at the tap room, a lot of dinners.
Yeah,
you know,
we do dinner at night. Yeah. I think it would actually depend more on your customer base.
Okay.
Your customer base would probably determine whether or not you kept your mouth shut.
Right.
Or you went, oh, hey, you should meet.
Yeah. You should come. You should have your soul eaten at night, you know.
Come out. He won't eat your face off, but he will consume your soul.
Yeah.
But come on in.
But the prime rib's worth it here.
Come on in. Check it out.
Hashtag Thursday nights at the Club Tap Room. So, is it Thursday nights?
Yes, it is Thursday night.
Come get a prime rib from these guys. So, but yeah, it was a great story. And I mean, also, I think it would be location. I would here you're downtown Morgan. It's really busy, so it's not as creepy or spooky if something's haunted in the tap room. But if you're like at the just throw a place out like at the
end of the dirt road.
Yeah.
Someplace at the end of the dirt road. Coming out there
where it's all surrounded by cornfields and shit.
Yeah, I would not. I would not advertise that.
I pass. I don't give a shit how good the prime rib is there. We ain't going there. Fuck that.
Yeah.
So
no, not going there.
Right. Anyway, that was
Yeah.
That was a great story. And I guess John is kind of he's one of the people who also sensed something in that basement. So
yikes!
We had a long time. He had lost someone close to him many years ago, and ever since then he said he's just kind of been sensitive to it. Like he kind of picks up on from time to time. So thank you, John Hastings. Love you, buddy. That was a great story. Thank you for coming on and telling your story. Next we have Madeline Hagen. Madeline is great because Madeline is very much into this. She's a medium. She does the tarot cards. She's very involved in this side of the world. Okay. So this side of things, not supernatural. That's not. I'm not saying anything there. You know?
That's on your Pornhub.
Those wrong videos. She's not involved in that. Yeah. But she is she is very involved in the supernatural. They had a holistic fair down here at the Stakeout, whatever it's the block or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And she was reading energies and past life stuff, and so I went down because her and Megan came to the podcast to go support some new friends, and I sat down and she started reading my past life stuff, right? And so she's reading it, and at first I'm like, I'm supporting a friend. This is cool, this is cool. Then she got into the meat of it, like, here's how your past life is now affecting your present life. Christine, she came like upsettingly close, she's like, she kept saying, are you okay? Are you okay with this? I'm like, yeah, keep going, because she was saying a lot of things. I mean, and it was very specific things, not like general stuff.
It wasn't a general round. It was, this has gone like this, and it's gonna.
Yes.
You are here because you did this here.
Right, where you like psychic mediums on back in the day when you call those lines.
Yeah.
And they say very broad things to where you could interpret it different places. She was very specific with a lot of it, man. I don't know if it freaked me out, but I was a little taken back, and I was like, huh, okay, well, that's, wow. So, yeah.
I won't mess with those. I'm
yeah.
Well, too big of a chicken. Nope.
She's become a friend over the years, and I like Madeline a lot. She's good people, but I think she's also the real deal. So, yeah. Very, very much so. So, anyway, here's Madeline Hagen's story.
All right. My name is Madeline Hagen, and I'm a professional psychic medium and spirit medium. I also practice a variety of other modalities, but today I'm here to tell you about some of my experiences growing up. I discovered that I was a psychic medium and spirit medium from my experiences growing up. Unfortunately, I had to learn the hard way, but I wanted to share some things for spooky season. So growing up, I had a lot of experiences. I definitely don't have quite as many experiences now, and I've transitioned over more to a healthcare model in my practice. But growing up, I was followed by an entity that I actually had to do a full banishing of from myself. And that was a very intense practice. And so this entity, he's like a shadow person. And so he's about, I would say he's about 8 feet tall and just like total all black. And he's very two-dimensional. And he has like almost like a Cheshire smile and yellow eyes and like claws for hands. And he was very, very scary, and he would antagonize me growing up. And so a lot of times shadow people or any type of dark entity will feed off of fear, and especially of people with abilities. So it's really common for, kids with abilities or just anyone with abilities to have a lot of paranormal experiences around them. So he would terrorize me nonstop. Growing up, like he would just sit or stand in the corner of my room and watch me sleep at night. And that was terrifying. Like these yellow eyes coming out and like this Cheshire type smile is very, very unnerving. And then there were times too that he would like come up onto my bed. He would never fully get up on the bed, but it's like I could feel stuff moving at my feet, like at the foot of the bed. And then there were times too that he would slither like kind of along the floor like a snake, and then just up above the bed. He would never like really directly touch me, but it was just like that constant looking at me and like with this really intense look, and he was feeding off my fear. And so I had this thing following me around for probably a good 15 years. And I eventually ended up banishing him about 6 years ago, and that was a very intense process. But it's interesting because in my professional experience, I do run into similar entities, and it's always an interesting process getting rid of them for the client. And it's always interesting too, seeing why they're attracted to certain people and why they latch on or attach themselves to certain people, and understanding how to get rid of that and how to work through them. But I also wanted to share some of my experiences just, in general with other things. I've had a lot of experiences with poltergeists. I've definitely made a few myself. And a poltergeist is essentially like a ball of psychic energy, and it has a bit of a consciousness to it, but not too much. It's like a lot of raw, chaotic energy, and it's basically developed when someone who has abilities is dealing with unresolved emotional trauma or turmoil. And so it becomes like this orb of energy, and it's just, frenetic, chaotic, and it's really synced up to the person who created it. And so growing up, I would also experience a lot of poltergeist-like activity. Like things would just be thrown or moved throughout my room. I would always have lights flickering around me. And some of that wasn't always poltergeist. Some of it was, like my guides or angels, loved ones on the other side saying, hey, you need to do this, or, giving me some type of sign. And to me, the poltergeist activity doesn't scare me as much, but I know for a lot of people it does. And oftentimes you'll see that children, especially really young children who have abilities and they're suppressing them and don't really have an outlet for them, will end up developing a poltergeist. And there will be signs of poltergeist activity around them. So, like toys moving, electronics going on and off, things being moved around the house, things being lost, weird odors, smells, things like that. But yeah, I think that for myself, that really the last super intense experience I had with the paranormal that really scared me was probably about 2 years ago. And I was working with a client who had an attachment that I was working with them to remove, and the entity ended up attacking me remotely, and that was not a fun process to go through at all. But yeah, I've had a lot of experiences with the paranormal. It's something that I enjoy dealing with. Definitely an important realm to understand what you're getting into, especially when it comes to the energetic liabilities.
Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was Madeline Hagen, as I had told you. And some of these I've actually surprised Christine with. She didn't get a chance to view them before. This is one of the ones you just got to see now for the first time. It was just fun to see your expression, because you just look at me and go, fuck that.
Yeah, I'm like, you can keep your job. I don't, no thank you.
She's very calm, though. She takes everything in stride. She really is a very calm, cooling person. You know what I mean? Very...
she's got a gift of some sort, because I'd be still sleeping with my parents if that were... Yeah. If I had that going on in my bedroom as a child. No thank you. No.
I think that also shows mental toughness. You know what I mean? But it's crazy. Like I said, I watched the Travel Channel in October for all the haunted stuff. And Travel Channel, what's up? Come on. Hook Daddy up. Hook Daddy up. There was a video of a guy who came across, and he heard something, and he came across around the corner of his home, and he caught the glimpse of a shadow person that was exactly what she just described. Spiky hair, big Cheshire cat smile, but it had white eyes. I believe it had white eyes. I can't remember. I have to go. I'm going to try and find the episode so Madeline can check it out. But she said white eyes are way worse than yellow eyes. Like the color of the eye is like basically in a shadow person or demon, the level of shitty they are.
The level of shitty. So we've got white, yellow, and what, probably red?
Maybe red, yeah.
If they were black, you wouldn't see them. With them being so dark.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to see any of them. I'm good.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, you're not welcome. So
no,
but it was.
Can't stay here.
She got back to me right away when we put that video out. She was like, "I'm in." So
sweet.
And she's also another one. We probably, if we do this, hopefully this is an annual thing. I really like it to be, but I think she'd be one that we'll see every year with fresh content, because she's actively looking for. Her and I talk about doing something like this, like a ghost hunting thing. But I'm always worried these things will follow you home.
Yeah, attached to you, and then you're living with it for the rest of your days.
Right. Well, there's ways to get rid of it. Silver Vincenzetti, which we'll see here in a little bit. She was actually last episode. She's huge into this stuff too. She says hugging a tree, and I go, hug a tree. Trees will take energy. They're Mother Earth energy, she said. So it'll take that ghost from you. It'll take that energy from you. So yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. So this actual year, last year was good. They had a lot of great episodes, or a lot of stories last year.
We had a lot.
And this year was very, very educational for me. So learned a lot of cool stuff. So but let's keep going on. Our next one is also Megan Orcutt. She also big into this stuff. She does a lot of she does all the fairs, the holistic stuff. She's big on the holistic healing, but she dabbles in this. She does the tarot cards. In her episode of the Bullhucker, she does like the pendulum.
Yeah,
all that stuff. Yeah,
but like we talked before, I don't want to do tarot cards. I don't want anything to do with any of that. I'm just going to go about my life however it's going to go, and I don't want to know. Right.
I did hers too, and she came pretty close on the tarot reading. She had a prediction of me that was pretty exciting. It was about the podcast, so hopefully it comes true. So about it turning a corner, and hopefully it is. So we'll see. But here is Megan Orcutt's episode.
My name's Megan Orcutt, and this is my spooktacular story. I went on a trip just last weekend, and it was called a Spooktacular Adventure, and it was run by these two ladies, and it was like a mountain retreat paired with a paranormal investigation. So it was up in Georgetown, and we investigated at the John Tomei Library, which was opened, I want to say it was in the 20s, if I remember the librarian's story right. And it was all paid for by John Tomei's money that he left behind after he perished. But there'd been all sorts of reports of just like spooky things happening to some people. One other investigation group had gone there before and had a few things happen. So we were like, this might be pretty cool. We don't know. And this was the first time I'd ever done like an investigation that had the actual supplies to do it. Like we had dowsing rods. I had never used those before. We had a spirit box, and then there was like EMF readers. And I'd always gone into places and just kind of seen what I felt and gone through more of like a me and the spirit kind of thing. So it was really cool to see how all of this machinery worked and like watch it pair with what I was experiencing myself. So the first night, we went there and we split into two groups. There was 11 of us, I think. And one group went to the basement, and then one group stayed upstairs. I was in the upstairs basement. So we were in like the kids section of the library. So there's like these little like giraffe chairs and like tiny tables, and we were just standing there while we got the EMF reader going, and then it starts like blipping a little bit. So we were like, oh, somebody's there. So we start the spirit box. Spoiler alert here, nothing ever came through the spirit box, which was kind of a bummer. But and then we set up a flashlight, and we were asking them to turn on the flashlight if they were there. And it was all the way across the library from us. And we were getting just small reactions, and then in like, I guess the back of my mind would be the best way to describe it, I felt a little boy ask me to sit down with him at the table. And it was like kind of the same feeling like I get even when like my toddler comes up, and it's like an unspoken moment that we have too. So I was like, all right guys, I'm going to sit at the table just so you don't think I'm weird. This is what I'm doing. So then I sat down, and then my sister was with me, and she sat down and she started coloring. So then the EMF reader is only going to green. Like it stops going anywhere else. So I went up to like the second green on it. And then after that, there's like yellow, orange, and then red. And we were like, make it go to orange. And then we just go to green. And then in the back of my head again, I heard him say, my favorite color is green. So we're like, okay, if we start coloring with green, will you answer some questions? And then it started going off of green. Like we just made my little sister sit down and color with green at the table. And so then he kind of starts answering, and then the answers start changing, and we realize that we're not talking to the little boy anymore. But this one of the girls that was here was playing with the dowsing rods, and one of them was just going like crazy. He just liked the dowsing rods. So he was done talking to us. He just wanted to play with the dowsing rods. And then we started hearing from this man who said he was a miner back in the day. He was never married, he informed us. Never had a girlfriend. And he literally hated that the children were coming to the library. That was all that he wanted us to know. He wanted to make sure that we understood that he didn't want that anymore. He didn't have kids. He didn't want the kids there. But he felt like he had to stay. And he liked that Georgetown was the red light district. We learned about the tunnels that go underneath. Well, they used to. They're concreted off now. But there are tunnels that went underneath. And this place it was an opera house, and then now I think it's just under construction. The tunnels go underneath there, and that's where the ladies would be to meet anyone that didn't want to be known for going to the red light district. So everyone from like Golden, Idaho Springs, Silver Plume, this was where they would come to in between mining times. And then that was pretty much all we got for the first night. It wasn't very active. So then we went back the second night, and we had a librarian who had a lot of background knowledge of it, who taught us about a couple historical stories that we were able to use in our questioning. And then we also had the lady who reads to the kids there, who would do like all of the craft times, activities, that kind of stuff with the kids. And we went down into the basement and just started there. And we had a little flashlight set up on the table for them to hit the buttons on. There was a little bear that would go off if they touched it. I don't remember what those were called. I think a REM pod. And then we had the EMF readers. So we started off talking to them. We were trying to talk to a lot of the people from the historical stories that we had heard. We had someone named Jackson come through. And I can't remember the name of the other guy that came through. But I know that they were involved in one guy getting clubbed to death over a mining incident. And then another one was like a shooting. But then we were using the Estes method, where they cover their ears, and then they have little eye masks on, so they're completely devoid of anything that they can experience outside of the spirit box hooked to the ear things. And they got the name not through the spirit box, but like probably in the back of their mind, because they said they just felt like someone was telling them that their name was Sam. So we got Sam, Sylvie, and I think Abigail or Angela. So then we started asking questions using the method that they liked, where they made the EMF reader go up and down with the colors. And we learned that Sam was the little boy. So he enjoyed the readings that the lady would do. So she went and got Mrs. Honeybun, which is the little puppet, a little rabbit puppet, and told a story with it. And after that, the activity was amazing. We asked him to just do musical lights, basically, with the flashlights. And we had 3 of them set up, and he would just go back and forth and turn them on all over the place, making little fun dance kind of things with it. He let us know that there was more than 10 spirits there. We learned that he was about 8 years old when he died. And he liked doing pranks. So then we were using that to our advantage, honestly, because we would have him go poke at the people that were doing the Estes method. And they would come out and be like, something touched me. Something touched my shoulder. Something bopped me in the head. So then he was just enjoying it. He would fling people's dowsing rods. He hit one guy in the face with a dowsing rod. And then near the end of it, when we were kind of winding down and just talking more amongst ourselves, and like every now and again we'd throw a question out to all the spirits. I had my hair up in this little clippy because I had just been Beetlejuice, so I had like this spray in my hair. We had done a costume contest and I went there. And I just felt like it didn't unclip it, but it ripped my hair back with the clippy. So then I panicked and went back because I was like, that hurts. And I unclipped it and he had broke my clippy, like a piece of it's gone. And I think it was because I had started playing with the dowsing rods instead of paying attention to him. So he just was like, no, listen to me. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. But we said our goodbyes to him and he agreed to stay there, which is always an important thing to make sure. So he's going to stay with Mrs. Honeybun and do all the children's classes with everybody. So, yeah,
Thank you, Megan.
Of course.
All right, that was Megan Orcutt. I don't know, kind of a cool place. You want to go check that out if you're searching for stuff like that, you know. It was kind of crazy. And she brought up a great point in this that I've heard a lot is you have to be very, very adamant about telling them you can't come.
Yeah, no. Use your words.
Yeah, you got to stay here because that entity wanted to follow her home, you know. And
yeah.
And well, maybe because she made contact with it, so I don't know. And she's sensitive to that kind of thing, so I could see as to where it would want to go with Megan because it could actually communicate with somebody. Right?
Yeah, I don't want to communicate with them.
Right.
I don't want any part of it.
Right. She, her husband Matt works. He's a mechanic at work, and they have a Cutlass that is haunted. Right, like it's supposed to be like Silver Vincenzetti's got that Corvette that's haunted. Their Cutlass is haunted, but not like Silver's. Like Matt would say, like just the weirdest things would happen. Like it's got a mind of its own, you know. So, and it's an old preacher and his wife that he believes is haunting this.
So it's not like they'll
yeah. It's not trying to eat his soul.
Stephen
It's,
King.
yeah. Which is Silver's car's name. It's kind of crazy. I'll have to show you the picture. If you watched last episode, it hasn't came out yet, so you haven't had a chance.
Right.
But her Corvette she has the a wrap on it of It, the clown from It.
Oh yeah,
like Pennywise.
I hate
it's
that clown.
Yeah. She talks about that thing being haunted so much, and it's cool to listen to her talk about it. So
yeah.
But we got off this course a little bit. Megan Orcutt also big into this stuff too, so I would imagine Megan can come back year after year and tell us more stories. I mean, people like her, Madeline, probably Schossow had a hard time picking.
Yeah, I would say Doug definitely would.
Yeah.
Have tons of stories with his history on the police department and everything you've seen. I'm sure he is just bleh.
Right. Totally crazy. So, anyway, that was Megan Orcutt. Megan, thank you for coming on the podcast. It was awesome to see you also. So,
thank you.
Yeah, it was very cool. And she sat around and kind of BS'd about stuff, and it was Silver. Her and Silver recorded together. And listening to them talk was kind of fun. You know what I mean? Because they're both so into it, and they're talking on another level that I can't understand.
You're
like,
just
it's
sitting
about,
there
like
absorbing, going,
Yeah. It was. I'm just like trying to follow the conversation. They're way above my head on this stuff. So, but very, very cool. So, our next episode, or our next story is Randolph Torres, who actually the bullhooker in the background there is the one who spray painted that on my wall.
Oh,
so,
nice!
Yeah, he's the one that actually the artist. You know him from the HGTV too.
Yes.
So yeah, he did all the murals in town. He's a tattoo artist, local. So Randolph Torres, great dude. So anyway, here's Randolph's story.
My name is Randolph Torres. I'm from Fort Morgan, Colorado, and I have a ghost story for you guys. So spooky. I really only have one story that was an interaction with an apparition or a ghost or a paranormal entity or whatever you'd like to call it. So the town I was born in California was Santa Maria, and there was a house that my mother and father at the time were living in. It was like a townhome that I was, brought into the world in the hospital and brought back to that house. And my interaction with this entity is many years down the road, but unbeknownst to me at the time, my dad had been having interactions with some form of ghost or entity, weird presence around the house. And I guess as I grew up for like the first year of my life, I think we were in that house in Santa Maria, at which point my father believed something attached to him. We then moved into a larger family-style home in Tacoma, California, about 15 minutes up the road. And, life went on as it does, normal childhood, nothing really out of the ordinary, until I was about 7 or 8 years old. Our house was essentially one long hallway. So we had front entry, kitchen, living room, all that stuff, with one really long hallway that had all of my brothers and sisters' doors leading down the hall. At the very end was the master bedroom where my parents' room was. And so, right around like 8 years old, my brother and my room were side by side, and the bathroom was directly across the hallway from us. And just one night, nothing real exciting leading up to it. Just one night, woke up in the middle of the night, had to use the restroom. So I left my bedroom door, was going across the hall, grabbed the handle to the bathroom door, and for whatever reason, half awake, eyes barely open, looked down the hall to my left, which is where the dining room and kitchen and all of that was. And from my dad's office, which was on the left side of the hallway, to the right side of the hallway where the dining room was, I saw just an elevated, real elegant, white floating figure, right? Tall, slender, real feminine kind of figure, like it was draped in a dress kind of thing, like a wedding gown. Just real slowly from the office door to the dining room. And it took a moment to register. I was like, don't know what it is, right? I'm half awake, don't even know if it was real. But I saw this figure transition across the hallway, and all of a sudden didn't have to use the restroom anymore. I saw that and I was like, nope, and turned around and went right back in my bedroom. Wanted nothing to do with it. So, at that point in time, didn't know if I was dreaming or what was going on, but it was really bothering me, like it felt real. So as a little kid, didn't know how to process it. So I asked my dad, I was like, hey, Dad, I got up in the middle of the night last night and I saw this really weird thing. And he was like, you saw her too? And that was when it, it really clicked. And I was like, what do you mean saw her too? And he was like, your brother's seen her. He's like, now you've seen her. He's like, we've all seen her. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so this is where, that story had been going on for a decade, from even before I was born. He had interactions with this woman, and just weird stuff going on around the house. He had a garage that was downstairs, kind of like a basement, attached to the house. And when he'd be down there working in the wood shop or whatever, always had the country music radio station on. And he'd shut it off, before he went up to bed at the end of the day. And he'd come down there in the morning to do some work in the shop, and it would be on the Hispanic radio station. And it was all the time. It was regularly happening. Didn't matter what station he tuned it to. The next morning, it'd be back on the Hispanic station. And he had seen her several times, passing between rooms, through the hallways and things like that. My brother had seen her passing between the hallway, very similar to how I did, in his bedroom one time. And so, yeah, a really, really weird thing, that our family encountered. We never knew of any Hispanic woman who was, killed or had died in any of the houses that we'd lived in, and no specific connection. And there was never anything like nefarious. She was never aggressive. Things never got moved or thrown. It was always just kind of this lady that was around. And so, yeah, I only ever saw her that one time, but my brother and my dad saw her a lot. And I think probably because, they were older. I mean, I guess they were able to perceive it a little bit more than me as a kid. I may have seen her more and I don't remember, but yeah, it's just really weird. One of those things where it's like when enough people see it without having already talked to each other about it, which, would then kind of like plant those ideas in your mind that, oh, maybe I did see something. But like the fact that none of us knew that anybody else had seen her, and then we all started asking like, hey, what's up with this thing we saw? And then they're like, what? Like, you saw it too? Just a really weird experience, and super cool, because it's like, we always like to hope that, our loved ones and those that, we lose are still around in some capacity, or, still watching us. And it's kind of hard to dispute when you see stuff like that. You're like, okay, like there is a chance that things are around, whether we see them or not, things are around. So super cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Spooky season.
So yeah, a little more of what Dave has on this episode of something attaching to you, and although that one also seems malevolent, I mean, just want to hear a little cucaracha music, you know what I mean?
I just wanted to listen to their own music
and
follow you through the house.
Yeah, it depends on what country you listen to. I might, if I was haunting you, turn it off too. Who knows, so.
Right.
But it was a great story. Randolph's a great storyteller anyway, if you watch his episode of the podcast. And all these guys have been on the Bullhucker, by the way.
Yes.
As you have. You go back through the library, you'll see all these people and listen to their actual stories of their life. Randall's is very interesting. But this is the kind of thing I was looking for in a nutshell. You know what I mean? Just the kind of stuff you don't realize. And he's right. I think there are things. There's probably someone watching us right now. That's why when you try to communicate with them, they know so much about you,
They know way too much.
They know what you sing in the shower. You know what I'm saying? They know what your downstairs looks like. They know everything. You know what I'm saying? So, but my point is that that's just something we don't understand yet. You know what I mean? And
it's definitely something that is, and probably will always be, unknown.
Right. And I always wonder, like, what personality traits are most popular for them to try and
attach
to. Yeah. So I don't know. Obviously, I don't know Randolph's father. So, but it seems to happen to just certain people. So
I'm going to work on an asshole personality trait. So
maybe that's what they like, Christine. I don't know. Well, this one's a dick. I'll just follow her around. You know what I mean? Because it's fun to watch her be a dick to people. So
she's just a dick. I'll follow her.
But anyway, that was Randall Torres, man. Randall, thank you so much for submitting your story, man. That was awesome. It was also good to see him again too. Like I said, he came in and did the Bullhucker sign behind us. He did the graffiti on it. I walked down there, and you haven't been to our studio.
I haven't.
You had to come kind of sign my wall. But I walked down there, and I was like, you okay with all the fumes down here? And he's like, I like the fumes down here. I go, okay, man. All right, Randall. So that was his little bonus buzz, and he,
yikes.
The Emporium has great pizza. And he goes, I'm going to get one before I leave. Well, he started eating one while he was still doing it, except he got the munchies. I think a tad bit high off that fumes. Yeah. But amazing artist, by the way. So if you need a tattoo, I'd recommend Randall Torres for sure. He does great work. I've seen a lot of it, and it's legit. So, and a good dude. So anyway, thank you, Randall, for your submission. All right. Moving on to our last story of the night. And you might recognize this lady from last episode.
Yes.
She was 139. This is episode 140. Silver Vincenzetti. It took me forever to learn how to say her last name because I slaughtered the shit out of it. But she just moved to town. She does mostly ghosty ride. Right. If this place is haunted, I would definitely give her your name, as is the Queen Lounge and the Sands Theater.
Oh, we're not haunted. I'm telling you, we're golden here.
Oh, you're okay. All right, never mind. They won't come here. But she does the mostly ghosty ride every year, and they go from haunted place to haunted place, like a motorcycle.
Yeah, like a poker run.
Poker run, yes.
Oh, gotcha.
And she was super interesting to listen to. She is huge in the supernatural. If you watched last week's episode, you'll know she's got a haunted Corvette. her Riverdale Road story. She had 3 haunted stories on her episode.
Riverdale Road.
You know about
I know about
Riverdale
Riverdale Road. Yes.
Like I said, it hasn't came out yet for you to listen to, but she has a story about what she saw on Riverdale Road, and it's pretty freaky, man. So, but this one actually goes in a little different direction. So I was impressed on the story she told, and we'll talk about it after we're done. So here's Silver Vincenzetti.
Hello, I am Silver Vincenzetti, and the story I'm going to name it The Visitor, because I don't want to give it away. So I am in a Native American spirituality, and I go to different houses and I cleanse them. And some of the houses have been kind of tough. The last one I went to, the gentleman slept out in his car because he was afraid to sleep in his house. But my this story is about my granddaughter. So she was living in an apartment, and she called me up and she says, "Grandma, I need you to come and cleanse the apartment because I think there's a ghost here because the doors are opening and closing and we see the shadows." And so I went and I felt it and I cleansed it. So her husband was sent to Iraq, and so she was alone and she decided to buy a house. And she's living in the house for a little bit, and I told her there was an odd smell as you walk into the doorway. And I told her, I don't know what it is. Could be plumbing. You could have a dead animal under the porch or something, but you should probably get it checked. And so she lived in the house probably, I'm going to say a couple 3 months. And she calls me up crying and she says, "Grandma, I think that ghost followed us that was in the apartment." And she said, "Could you come cleanse the house?" And I said, "Well, I didn't feel anything when I was there, but sure." And so I asked her, I said, "Well, what's happening?" And she says, "I think I'm going crazy." She says, "The dogs will sit at the edge of the bed and they'll growl in the middle of the night. And they'll just sit there and growl." And she says, "I don't see anything." She says, "And things are coming up missing or being moved." She says, "My dog, Lucy, he's never gotten into anything, and he got on the kitchen table and ate all the cookies." Of course, I was like, "Oh my gosh, is the dog okay?" Because he ate a lot of sweets. And she said, "Yeah, he was okay." So she started moving stuff up to where the dogs couldn't get it. And she says things end up missing out of the refrigerator. She hears noises. And she says, "Grandma, I'm really scared because I'm by myself." So she had a friend come stay with her for a little while. And when I went there to stay for the weekend and clear the house, I still, again, did not feel any presence of anything. I told her, "I don't know what to tell you. I don't feel anything here but that odd smell at your doorway." And so she says, "Well, Grandma, I'm not lying." She's really upset, and she's pregnant at the time. So I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe it's because of her pregnancy and she's living alone, and, you know. So then she calls me a few nights later. She's upset. She says, "Last night was crazy." I said, "Well, what happened?" And she says, "At 3 o'clock this morning, somebody is banging on my door." And she says, "They're yelling, 'Let me in.'" And I told her, I said, "Well, did you call the cops?" She goes, "No." She says, "I went and I looked at the ring, and it was some lady, and she looked like she was drunk and homeless." And she says, I was going to call the cops, but then she left, and she stood under the street lamp. And she says, "I watched her for a while, and then she disappeared." Well, she still kept hearing sounds and the doggy door. And I said, "Well, you sure you're not having a raccoon come in the doggy door?" And she says, "No, there's no other animals coming in." Well, then her husband came back from Iraq, and she says, he said, "That smell is awful." And their plumbing started backing up. And so she called the plumber out, and the plumber came out, and he says, "Well, your tub seems fine. We're going to go under the house and see what's going on." They went under the house, and apparently, this is what they call frogging. She had somebody living under her house. They had a mattress, food, everything, and stuff that was from her house in there. So this lady had been coming through the doggy door and taking things out of the house and walking around the house at night, and that's why the dogs were growling. So that's a true story of frogging, which is PHROGGING, is what they call it when somebody's living in your house and you don't know they're there.
Thank you, son. That was Silver Vincenzetti. Like I said, I just recently met her, and I like her a lot. She's a very interesting person to talk to. You know what I mean? She has a lot of wealth of knowledge of this stuff. But the reason I like this story, I liked them all. They all did a great job.
Right.
But hers is, I liked it because shadow people, ghosts, demons, all that's scary. But you know what's scarier? Fucking human beings are the scariest thing walking this earth.
They
you know
are.
what I mean? And you had just brought up a point when we got done watching that video about Dencia Kudrin.
Yes.
In her episode, she's told this story many times. Same thing, someone living in the house and you don't know it.
Nobody knew it. That's just creepy.
It's creepy as shit. It's scary when she said that. There's a frogging. There's an actual word for it, so it happens all the time, probably, you know.
Like it's just a given thing that people just do.
Yeah. I mean,
no thanks.
You know. Yeah, no. So it's a crazy thing, right? It's so nuts. So I was grateful. She called me and she got a hold of me and said, "Hey, can I tell this story? Right. It's not supernatural per se." And I said, "But it's still
it's a good story.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
How many times people get hurt or murdered in that aspect when the person finds, you know what I mean? It's
somebody shouldn't be there that's been living there.
If they're living there for free, it means they're probably hard up, so they're probably desperate. So they probably will resort to violence or something, you know." Or if it's a man and is the woman sitting there by herself, I mean, that's scary for a woman, right? A female?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, whatever, man. You know what I mean? Come on in, you know. I call Big Spoon, but, yeah, I don't know. She told that story and I was like, well played, goodness. Silver. Well played. So
well played, yes. That was good.
I thought it'd be a good one to end this on. So, what'd you think of all the stories today, Christine?
Oh, there were some really good ones.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Right. And like I said, this year was very educational for me. Having people like Silver and Madeline and Megan, you know, people who were very sensitive that really get into this stuff. It was cool to listen to them talk to each other about, you know what I mean?
They speak their own language.
They really
where
do.
We're just sitting here going, what?
And so Jennette and Jennette Bishop's also that way. I'm sorry, Jennette, I didn't mean to forget you. You know, much love, Jennette. So Jennette's the first person in that basement to pick up on that little boy, right? Madeline picked up on it. Megan picked up on it. And they're three. Those they're friends. So I thought maybe they just talked and, you know, who knows, blah, blah, blah. And maybe they did all pick up on it. But when Silver came down there, nobody knows Silver. I just met her. She just moved to town. Unprompted. She was in the basement. We were doing the podcast where we sit. This is my seat they're in right now, but on the other side is where they sit. And she goes, "There's something down here." I go, "What is it?" She's like, "I don't know yet. Something going on down here," she said. And I'm like, "Okay." So we do the podcast, you know, and we get done, and it's her, Carrie Ankrum, and I. And as she sat down, we all kind of BS for a while as we do after the podcast. We shoot the shit.
Right.
And Silver stops. She goes, "There's a little boy. There's a little boy down here," and she described the same little boy as Jennette had described. And so I told Dana Sherman, the owner of the Emporium, one of the owners, about it, and she's like, "Oh, that's kind of crazy." I said, I guess he's nice, so he's not gonna, you know, try to kill you. You know, it's nice, but and who knows? She also told me she went to the Cattleman's Inn or the Corral, and something followed her home from there, like an entity.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, no, that's an old. I mean, the Cattleman's was rough back in the day.
Yes,
a lot of shit went down at the Cattleman's. If someone didn't die in there, I'd be shocked. If people haven't died in that bar back in the day, now Charlotte's cleaned it up, but it's
right. But
in the '80s, you heard all kinds of '70s. You heard all kinds of crazy stories of the Cattleman's, right?
Yeah, always.
And you bartended downtown Brush for a long time.
Yes. Quite a few years. Smitty's, Red Zone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are way back in the day.
Right. So Fort Morgan and Brush, both downtowns, have old buildings.
Very old buildings.
But she did say Brush is spiritual, like the sense she gets is very laid back. Morgan's is a little rougher, she said. The spiritual energy, she said, in Fort Morgan is a little more aggressive. So I don't, you know. because they're jealous of them beat diggers. What's up? So take that, Dencia. But she flipped me off, I guarantee you right now. But,
I'm pretty sure she did.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she did.
But Christine, thank you for letting us do this here again.
Yes, this was great.
And hopefully every year we get to do this until we run out of people telling us stories. So
I don't think we'll ever run out of people.
No. Sometimes it just takes they're scared to tell the story, but
yeah.
But you got to realize when you're telling these stories, like I said, throughout this week they've been coming down the Emporium, and I've been just recording them as they come in, right? Yeah. So we can edit, we can do whatever. You should never be worried to come on the Bullhucker. And if you want to come on the Bullhucker, let me know. Or if you know Christine, tell her, she'll get a hold of me. So
absolutely.
But yeah, it was fun again. I'm glad we did this. These are a little more work, since all their different recording and stuff, but totally worth it. And I love you and Ryan. I love the tap room. This place has a special place in my heart. So I'd like to, when I do come out of my hole at the Emporium, this is one of the places I do come. So, yeah, absolutely. So, and if you want to come check out a good bar, come check out a place that really celebrates Halloween. This is the place to come in. You go out of your way to really decorate the place, to give it that Halloween vibe. So, very cool place. What did you do this year for Halloween?
It'll be the 28th.
But it'll be past that.
Yeah, we're already past that. So, we will have had bike night and our Halloween party at the same night, all on the same night.
It's usually the weekend before, right?
Yeah, we will have done it on the 28th.
So next year when we do this, you'll actually be able to see it. But this year it actually falls on Tuesday, Halloween. So it's the day, But so happy Halloween, everybody! Happy
Halloween! I have thousands of pieces of candy I have to hand out for their trick or treat trail.
Oh, is that on Halloween?
I don't recall which day it's going. I don't know if it's going to be on Saturday or if it's going to be
on Halloween on Trick or Treat Street.
Yeah,
I bet it's on Halloween.
My grandson, I recruited him to hand out the candy, and I'm just gonna supervise.
And if she doesn't hand out all the candy, come down and get a beer and probably some candy if she has left over. You know, right?
Yes, always.
Part of a fully nutritional meal, right? Snickers bars and Coors Light.
Coors Light and Snickers bar. Can't go wrong with that.
And who gives a shit if you can't? So, anyway, thank you so much, Christine.
Thanks for having me, Larry.
And you guys have a happy Halloween. We'll check you out next year. Peace.
Peace out.